So we got some new developments in the ongoing soap opera drama that is Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. You know what I'm saying? And some people are being accused of ducking and some people are being accused of bluffing. So we're going to review all the information that we have gathered so far and bring a conclusion to determine who's the culprit and who's responsible for this fight not happening. So stay tuned for the next episode of Who's Ducking Who.
Every day that I've been making DuckTales.
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know one line.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? It's your boy, Dr. Boxing Talk, back for another YouTube video. Banger, man. Yes, sir. Yes, man. I don't know what time it is. The doctor's in the house, man. So check this out. So the WBC has officially ordered Shakur Stevenson, the champion at 135, holding the WBC belt, obviously, to go against the interim champion, the WBC interim champion, you know, William Zepeda. So this fight has been talked about for a while, man, for a long time, ever since William Zepeda first called out Shakur Stevenson after he beat Maxie Hughes.
But wait, there's more.
And then he called him out again after he beat Gervonta Cabrera.
But wait, there's more.
And then he called him out again after he beat Tevin Farmer, but then decided to have a rematch. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? That's not to mention the time where he said he wasn't going to fight in November for the initial match, but then turned around because he was having a baby, right? But then turned around and fought Tevin Farmer anyway, when he thought that Shakur Stevenson was supposed to fight Joe Cordina 2 hours later. But anyway, so now here we are, where they both are available, right? William Zepeda put a conclusion on Tevin Farmer and on that little that chapter that they had where they had their two matches, and William Zepeda won. So now we're looking for him to go fight Shakur Stevenson, right? To have this fight come into fruition, because not only did we want it, not only does William Zepeda team claim that they want it, not only does Shakur want it, but also Big Turkey Al Sheikh, he wanted it too. Remember that Oscar De La Hoya and Turk shook on it.
And not this only. We want to see Shakur and Zepeda. William Zepeda versus Shakur Stevenson on the same card. Let's do it.
Yeah, they shook on it way back then, you know what I'm saying? So this fight is long overdue, but it seems like it's been having roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And to me, the issue is Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, Coach Panda, and William Zepeda. So they're going to try to paint Shakur as a duck. You know what I'm saying? And say that, oh, well, you know, he doesn't want the fight because he doesn't have a good reason to not take the fight right now. Well, according to reports, he has a pretty big reason, a substantial reason, and significant reason. $2 million worth of reasons not to take the fight.
Damn. I'm sorry.
So according to Shakur, when he first agreed to the fight, you know, the number that they agreed on, Big Turk has kind of went back on his word, you know, and it's $2 million less of what he thought it was going to be. So that's a significant reason, you know what I'm saying, not to go forward with any deal. For example, if I'm buying a car and I say, hey, man, hey, bro, I'm going to give you this car for $5,000 and you agree with it, you agree to it, a used car, right? And you show up at the crib and you only have $2,000 less. You better believe that you walk home with that $3,000. You're not getting this car, you know. So that's just to put it in simple terms. This is a lot more money. So for people to say that, oh, you know, Shakur doesn't deserve it, I think that's kind of crazy. I think that I don't like to question anybody's valuation on themselves. You know, if you feel like you want this money and you agree to this money, then you get what you deserve. You know, always maximize your earning potential. You know, that's what any walk of life. We all want to do that. So don't be unrealistic. But I'm gonna tell you what favors Shakur. History favors Shakur, right? Like I said, Zepeda called out Shakur after the Maxie Hughes fight. Then he called him out again after the Gervonta Cabrera fight. And Shakur obliged his call out both times, right? And then for some reason, some way, somehow, they weren't ready, right? Even Coach Panda himself said that he didn't want Shakur right then, despite Zepeda calling him out.
You dumbass.
That's cool. So that's twice. Then we move forward to a November date of last year, right? 2024. He was willing to fight Shakur then, and Shakur was willing to fight him. But then Zepeda said he had a baby. Many blessings. Big salute for a baby. You know what I'm saying? He said he wasn't available to fight in November. Then Shakur inked the deal with Joe Cordina, but then he hurt his hand, had to back out of that. And suddenly, in the midst of that, William Zepeda, I guess he had a change of heart and he came back to fight. When, you ask? in November against Tevin Farmer. So that's another knock against Zepeda, right? So Shakur has been avoided 3 times, even though he's been requested 3 times. And when he answered the call, they didn't want to fight. So that all history shows that Shakur is willing to fight. In addition to that, Zepeda fought Tevin Farmer. You think that's a coincidence? You're crazy, right? What is Tevin Farmer? A left-handed or southpaw fighter whose game is primarily predicated off of his defense, just like Shakur Stevenson, a southpaw whose game is predicated off of defense, right? So it was obvious that Zepeda took the Tevin Farmer fight for more preparation to get this Shakur Stevenson fight, you know what I'm saying? And he still didn't do that because that quote unquote tune-up or preparation, you know, ended up being a hell of a fight where he got dropped. So he had to have so he wanted to have the rematch. He pursued that, and I'm cool with that, but he pursued that rematch to win in a more decisive manner. So it was still, though, with the intention to prepare himself for Shakur Stevenson, that eventual fight that's supposed to happen, right? That's going to happen down the line. Now, fast forward to where we are right now, the fight didn't happen. But I also want to point out something else, right? So we can get off the Zepeda train for a little bit. Let's stay on another Golden Boy fighter's case, right? And that is Floyd Kid Austin. Kid Austin also called out Shakur, and that fight was supposed to happen, but then Floyd Kid Austin pulled out, right?
Nigga, you's a bitch!
For the February 22nd card on Riyadh season. And that's why Shakur fought Josh Pally. What do they have in common? They're both fighters for Golden Boy. Oscar De La Hoya is there. He advised Kid Austin not to fight Shakur Stevenson. So this just goes and falls in line and provides more evidence to show you that these guys at Golden Boy as a whole, Oscar De La Hoya and everybody under him, you know, under that umbrella of Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, they don't really want to fight Shakur. And so now Oscar De La Hoya is using this issue, this financial issue that Shakur is having with Big Turk, and trying to exploit that as a reason why Shakur doesn't really want to have this Zepeda fight. But if you take off your blinders real quick and don't be fooled by the goofiness of Oscar De La Hoya, you know, which I like Oscar De La Hoya as a fighter, but he's a little snakish, you know what I'm saying? If you just see through the BS, then it'll be evident that they don't really want no parts of Shakur. Not to mention, let's look at the WBA rankings. Yeah, Zepeda is suddenly ranked number 1 in the WBA again, right? And you see what's the issue? He's an interim champion. When you're a champion of any capacity, whether you're a full champion, interim champion, regular champion, champion of recess, you're usually typically taken out of the rankings of the other sanctioning bodies. So the fact that he's not only in the WBA, but he's ranked number 1, that's very alarming. I mean, something is afoot, you know what I'm saying? Something I ain't gonna say fouls at play, but something is moving. They looking a little shaky, baby, you know what I'm saying? So don't be surprised if, with this fight being ordered by the WBC, Zepeda and Golden Boy decide to pivot and just give it up their interim belt and pursue the WBA. And why is that important? Because who's the money man at 135? It's Gervonta Davis. Yeah. So if you're gonna lose, and if you're not confident that you could beat any of the champions, then you would probably want to take your chances against Tank, because at least you'll get paid heavily and it'll be an exciting fight, you know, because Shakur Stevenson does have the boring stigma, whether you agree with it or not, you know. So that's everything that's in favor of Shakur, to let you know that he's not ducking him, right? And he's not avoiding the Zepeda fight. It's actually the opposite. But I will say what's not in his favor to play, you know, on the Golden Boy side and the court of public opinion, this is going to be seen as Shakur having yet another issue as to why he can't fight, right? Because if you remember, you know, he also admitted that, you know, him fighting on Riyadh season against Josh Pally was the most money he's ever earned. Now, people are going to reach and they're going to exaggerate and say, oh, well, if it's the most money he ever earned, then that should, you know, we could deduce that this next fight is going to be the most money he ever earned. That's not the point. Even if it is, or whether it is or it isn't the most money he's ever earned, the fact that it's less than what he agreed upon is the issue for him. But people are going to take that and manipulate it and misconstrue that and try to make it seem like he is turning down his biggest payday. Well, no, even if it is his biggest payday, if it's less money than what I agreed upon, then it's not right. You know what I'm saying? The deal is broken. But people will say, hold on now, you just trying to be greedy, like Oscar's saying. And just like they accused him of being greedy when the Devin Haney fight fell out, right? It's because he wasn't offered a fair shake. And even Floyd Mayweather said, hold on, you know, the Devin Haney offer to Shakur wasn't really fair. But people are going to ignore that, and they're just going to focus on the fact that, once again, the fight didn't happen, and it was for monetary reasons, even if it comes at the expense of Shakur not being treated fairly. And I don't feel like anybody should be in a situation where they're treated unfairly, but, you know, people will remember that, and people will also say, you know, no one's lining up to fight you, so you might as well fight Zepeda by any means because you need him. And that's not in his favor as well, because of the boring stigma people see as, oh yeah, Shakur needs good opponents. Yes, everybody needs a good opponents, but Shakur is a champion. Champions don't chase the contenders, and contenders chase the champions. And this is what people that really look at the whole picture and try to be unbiased and keep objectivity alive, you know, and remain objective, you would realize that Zepeda was the undisputed mandatory. We cannot forget that. That means that he was ranked number 1 in WBA, WBO, WBC, and the IBF. And he did not get a title shot. So let's not make it seem like all the champions, Gervonta Davis, Lomachenko, Keyshawn Davis, and Shakur Stevenson, they're avoiding Zepeda. No, Zepeda just doesn't really want a title shot like that. And if he does get a title shot, it seems like Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya want to ensure that they cash out on him, because if you ask me, I feel like they don't really have as much confidence in Zepeda as they put on. That's just my opinion on it, though. Do I think that with the WBC ordering the fight, is it going to happen? I think it should happen, but I have my doubts, man, because they have 30 days to come to an agreement. And, you know, we'll see how that goes, man. May 6th is the deadline. I just don't see it happening, man. I'm not gonna lie, because of the scenario where, but just because of the situation, right? I feel like it's easy to make a scenario, whether it's true or not, where Oscar De La Hoya could put this on Shakur and say, hey man, we tried to make the fight, he didn't want the money, I'm not going to put the money up myself when it goes to purse bid, when we could have had it with Turk. He's going to make up all this stuff and try to manipulate the situation and make it seem like it's Shakur's fault, and people are going to go with it because of Shakur's history of not taking fights that he quote unquote should have taken, and regardless of how much money he was being shorted, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's ridiculous, man. But at the same time, it is what it is, man. We got to make this fight happen somehow, some way. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Zepeda is going to pivot to the WBA route, and I think people are going to blame Shakur, and I think that's wrong. I don't think it's Shakur's fault that people just don't want to fight him a lot of times. But at the same time, too, he does have to take accountability because of his label. You know, his label is that he's boring. But at the same time, I know it seems like I'm going back and forth. At the same time, though, you know, I like to make cross references, right? To me, Shakur is like the Spurs with Tim Duncan and all of them, and Avery Johnson, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and even back in the day with David Robinson, Deshaun Elliott, all the way back in the day. You know, they were always considered to be less entertaining, but they won, right? They're fundamentals, you know. Shout out to Greg Popovich, and Tim Duncan was called the big fundamental. It's like when you compare them to what the LA Clippers, Lob City with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, it's like, yeah, they're more exciting, but they didn't win. They didn't win titles, you know. So and the Spurs, they're less exciting, but they won titles. You know what I'm saying? So who do you want to go see? Who are you lining up for box office to go see? You're going to go see Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and see them double, triple alley-oops behind the back, no look passes. But if you want to win championships, then you got to respect the Spurs, and that's what Shakur is. He's the guy you got to respect, but he just won't bring the entertainment value like that for the majority of fans, unfortunately. So he is going to have to maybe consider putting himself in less advantageous positions as far as monetary compensation goes in order to make these fights happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's unfortunate, because people are going to take advantage of the situation in the court of public opinion that views Shakur as a guy that they not really too excited to see, you know, which is wrong. But that's just my opinion on that, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Don't forget to smack that like button, but most importantly, remember, with God we can do anything, without God we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace. From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.